month and a half ago. And so I'm really active in those areas.
That's really cool.
I'm on the board of directors of Gateway, Worldwide Technology Gateway in St. Louis. I'm on the ACUS board of directors. I'm on 10 boards in America. Most of them are connected to racing. A few are connected to business. Most are connected to racing.
That's really cool. You've had an incredible career. So, my next question after that is, before you presided over the Allison and Yarborough appeal after their fight at Daytona, did you hear about it or read about it?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Before you presided over the appeal for Allison's and Yarborough, the Allison brothers, did you hear about it or read about it or no?
I saw it.
Okay.
I saw it happen.
All right. If you can answer, what was your reaction to the fight?
Well, I understood. You know, you go for 498 miles. You're about to win the biggest race, stock car racing in the world, and you get taken out for whatever reason. I'm not saying who took out who. You know, it was, man, they were just racing hard. So I can understand that part of it. The part of it I never understood. Actually, one time I hired Bobby to come out and run some races. I was promoting for some dirt track races years ago. Bobby and Donnie and I are close buddies. Anyway, so I was in his private plane and we were flying from Riverside up to Northern California. And I said, I want to ask you a question. What prompted you to... I understood you stopping to make sure that Donnie wasn't hurt. But what prompted you to get in that fight with Kale? He said, he was my brother. And, you know, the adrenaline was running. But, you know, Doug, you got to understand, racing in those days was a wild and woolly business. I mean, I probably was in 20 fist fights before I was 20 years old. And that's just what you did. I mean, and then you shake hands, and the next week be side by side with that same guy defending him, or he'd be defending you. You know, we were like a bunch of brothers.
Yeah.
So I was part of the hearing for Cale Yarborough. He said the same thing I just said to you. You know, we shouldn't have done what we did. The adrenaline was flowing. The anxiety was at a very high level. Donnie and I both thought we had the Daytona 500 won. And I remember I said, you know, I think a good thing would be you guys pack a lunch and get a canoe and go fishing together. Just the two of you. Well, they'd already talked, shaking hands, you know. I mean, that was not an unusual occurrence. What made that so unusual was the fact that it was the last lap of the Daytona 500, and they were well-known drivers. And the big thing was that was the weekend nobody could go out of their homes in New England because of snow and ice, and the TV ratings were 10.2, and that event really put NASCAR on the map. That was a huge happening when that happened. Never to be forgotten. I remember saying to Bill France Sr. when the race was over that evening, and I was invited to some people's home for just heavy hors d'oeuvres and a cocktail after the Daytona 500, and Bill France Sr. was there, and I said, Mr. France, I said, you have enough people to answer the phone tomorrow at the office of the phone calls you're going to get from Fortune 500 agencies. And I was absolutely right. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So,
Yeah, I saw a video from the Hall of Fame from a few years back where the Allisons and Yarborough were interviewed afterwards. And the thing is,
Yeah.
they still kind of poke jabs at each other over who's at fault for it. But the thing is, they
Yeah,
do it jokingly now.
yeah, yeah. Cale and I are not connected anymore. We were at one time. Somewhere around here, I've got a picture of he and I on the back of a convertible in Calgary, Canada, before a 500-lap race up there, and he was the grand marshal and I was the race director. That's been 40 years ago. And we were friends for a few years, but I haven't seen Cale in 20 years.
That's a very long time.
But I see Bobby and Donnie every time I'm back east. We're good friends.
That's really cool. After that, I must ask, you also presided over the appeal of Matt Kenseth when he got into it with Joey Logano and was given a suspension for over-aggressive driving. Like Daytona, did you see that when it happened?
Yep, I watched the whole thing. I was not there. I was watching it on television. And I watched the replays and the replays and the replays. Then the next day I got a phone call from the appellate commissioner and asked me if I'd jump on a plane and fly to Charlotte for a hearing. And Joe Gibbs was allowed to sit in on that with Kenseth. And I had to be very unbiased because Roger Penske and I have been friends for a long time. And so I just bit my lower lip and I said, hey, I've just got to see this the way it really was. And Kenseth knew what he did was wrong. He knew that was wrong. The big thing was they were chasing points. And, that cost Joey the championship. I think he would have won the title that year if that hadn't happened.
Yeah.
To me, that was very, very significant. I told Matt, face to face, eyeball to eyeball, you penalized him career-wise heavily by taking him out. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me and kind of shrugged his shoulders and looked down at the ground. That's about all there is to it. That I was one of the three decision makers, and we asked them to leave the room, and we convened for about a half hour. I already knew which way I was going to vote. What he did was wrong.
Yeah. I agree with you, you guys did the right thing, as far as the decision. And I'm saying this as a big Kenseth fan, I get that Kenseth, was frustrated about losing a title. I would be too in his circumstances. But there's always a better alternative to resolving things like that than using your car as a weapon.
We didn't want to destroy his career.
Yeah.
You look at the point standings that year, he was a contender. And season wasn't over yet. But to this day, I feel Joey would have won the Cup championship that year if that hadn't happened.
Yeah, there's really no other way than to think that because, he was on a roll, he would have won that race at Martinsville if it hadn't happened,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say about that. There's not much more to say about it. I only did in all my time, and I haven't been on the commission now, or the appellate commission. Let's see, I went off of it. I was on it in 1978 until 2000. And then I went off of it for about 4 years, and I came back on 2005, right in there. And I was on it then until, let's see, no, 2018, I think, and I went off. And, I retired Senior Vice President of Marketing Development in 1999. And all in one day, Bill France Jr. didn't even ask me if I wanted to be a consultant or an advisor or a coach. He just says, well, I'm thinking about stepping down a little bit too. He said, we'll just leave everything the way it is, except there won't be any tax taken out of your check. You'll become a senior executive consultant. So for 20 years, I was a senior executive consultant. That all just ended 2 years ago.